Welcome. My name is Gina Koch. I am a customized rate technical consultant for the Department of Behavioral Health and Developmental Services. Today, we are going to be discussing behavioral plans as they relate to the customized rate. If you are unfamiliar with the customized rate, I strongly suggest that you go back to the video regarding the customized rate funding, everything you need to know. That will cover the customized rate from start to finish and will give you more information about it in general. This training today is really for one aspect of the customized rate, and that aspect is behavioral services. So how do you know if an individual that you are supporting is in need of a behaviorist? Well, there's a few different ways. First, do the behaviors prevent them from achieving their personal goals or their ISP outcomes? Do they have behavioral challenges that are dangerous to themselves or others? And are their current services not actually meeting their needs? So some people may have medication that is prescribed to them for behavioral challenges, but those things may not be actually addressing the root cause. The individual you're serving may also have some legal involvement, or they may have a situation where you have a staffing ratio that cannot support them. So for instance, if your staffing ratio is 1 staff to 4 individuals, but one particular individual has exceptional behaviors that pull that staff away from everyone else to just them, that would be a key indicator that you need some behavioral support for that person. And lastly, the person may actually ask if they can get help to change their behavior. They may not like the way that they feel, or they may not like the things that they do, and so they may ask for assistance. So how do behavioral supports relate to the customized rate? Well, if someone is requesting the customized rate due to an exceptional behavioral need, then that provider must consult with a qualified behaviorist. So how do you do that? Well, you can request referrals from the support coordinator to at least 3 different behavioral services in your area. Now, you may say, well, in my area, I don't even know if we have any behavioral support services. We do have a therapeutic behavioral consultation search engine, which is located on our website. And as you see below, it states dbhds.virginia.gov, and then it goes on to developmental services and behavioral services. And there you will find a link that you can click on to find services in your area. You can also give this link to the support coordinator to help them in finding someone and sending the referrals. Ultimately, the support coordinator is the responsible person to find a behaviorist for the individual needing support. If the individual you are applying for the customized rate for is not currently connected with a behaviorist at the time of application, then, like I mentioned before, you must have at least 3 contacts with therapeutic consultation providers. And the reason we ask for that is because a lot of behavioral providers have waiting lists, and therefore we would like you to get on as many waiting lists as you can, because it's you don't know who's going to come open first. So we also want evidence that you have attempted to connect with behavioral services. So a way to do that is to contact the support coordinator and ask them to send you an email listing the behavioral support services that they have contacted or made referrals to. And then you can submit that email to us with your application. If you choose not to participate in behavioral services for your individual, then unfortunately, that can be a cause for denial of the customized rate. We also wanted to mention that there are telehealth options available, and this is especially useful for people who are in rural areas. You might be asking yourself, well, who is able to provide behavioral services? Can it just be someone in our program who has some experience, or can it be someone who can read a book about it and then put it together? Well, unfortunately, no. It has to be a professional. So some examples of that would be a licensed behavioral analyst, also known as a BCBA, a licensed assistant behavioral analyst, which is known as a BCABA, a positive behavior supports facilitator, which is also known as a PBSF, and there are other accepted but less common licenses such as psychologist, licensed professional counselor, licensed clinical social worker, psychiatric clinical nurse, or a psychiatrist. Some of you may be familiar with the term registered behavioral technician, also known as an RBT. If you have one on staff, can they make changes to the behavioral plan or even write the behavioral plan? Unfortunately, no. An RBT must be under the supervision of a BCBA, which we mentioned previously, and is not licensed to be able to write the plan or make any changes to it. Now, the RBT would be instrumental in implementing that plan. So they are very useful, and they would come with experience and training that could help others learn how to implement the plan, and they would be very successful usually at implementing it themselves. Others have asked us if someone on the staff with behavior management experience can write the plan. No, unfortunately, that alone does not meet the requirements noted in the regulations. Experienced staff may be very helpful and can join in with the assessments that will be done by the behaviorist and in recommending some things that may need exploration. Let's just do a little review question. Which of the following is not eligible to provide therapeutic behavioral consultation, also known as TC? Licensed behavioral analyst, which is a BCBA, licensed clinical social worker, which is an LCSW, positive behavior supports facilitator, or PBSF, registered behavior technician, or RBT, or licensed professional counselor, or LPC. If you chose registered behavioral technician, known as an RBT, then you are correct. There are some expectations for therapeutic consultation that must be observed by the behaviorist. First, they must obtain consent from either the person who will be receiving services or their guardian if they have one. They will do a functional behavior assessment that we will go over shortly, a behavior support plan, graphical displays, evidence of training staff, and measurable benchmarks, which means that there are things that can show that progress is being made. Let's do another review question. Which of the following professionals can provide therapeutic consultation? A registered nurse, bachelor's degree in psychology, licensed assistant behavioral analyst, or a qualified mental health professional, also known as QMHP. You chose C, licensed assistant behavior analyst. You are correct. So let's take a moment to discuss consent. The individual and/or their legal guardian must agree to participate in services. these services cannot just be imposed upon the person. Prior to assessment and services, a document must be signed showing that permission has been given and that they have had the choice of more than one therapeutic consultation service. Also, anytime significant treatment updates occur, the guardian and/or individual must be consulted and agree to those changes. Collaboration between the behaviorist and the provider of services or those providing support to the individual should have collaboration between them. There should be discussion and communication occurring regularly. The behaviorist will assess the behaviors identified in the referral that was sent to them, and they will put together something called the functional behavior assessment that was mentioned earlier. This is basically a hypothesis of why the behaviorist thinks the behaviors are happening. Provider input or support and caregiver input are very important for this. The behaviorist has to go by what they see and what they hear, both from the individual and from those providing support. Is the provider allowed to talk to the behaviorist about what they need or what they are hoping this service will provide? Yes, of course. If the behaviorist doesn't directly ask you for information, then offer it to them. You should feel comfortable as the provider or the support person, you should feel comfortable asking them for information and providing information to them. The collaboration between the provider and the behaviorist is extremely important. Everybody has to work together to help the individual have successful outcomes. Also, when applying for the customized rate, the CRRC, which is also known as the Customized Rate Review Committee, has expectations that the behaviors and the provider of services or the support people are going to communicate to make things work. So what is a BSP? A BSP is short for Behavior Support Plan. This plan will contain strategies, interventions, and opportunities for data collection. It will also help the providers or support people to understand the hypothesis and the interventions. So here are some frequently asked questions. I didn't know the behaviorist was supposed to include us in the development of the plan. They came here a few times and then we just got the plan sent to us. What do we do? Well, as I mentioned earlier, the provider-caregiver collaboration is extremely important. Please feel free to reach out to the behaviorist and request a meeting. Ask them for opportunities to be able to contribute to the service. Another question is, what if the behavior plan doesn't work? Absolutely contact the behaviorist and/or the support coordinator for assistance in contacting the behaviorist to discuss why it's not working and what changes could possibly be made to help. What exactly is a hypothesis? Well, behaviors have a reason that they happen. However, we don't always know what that is. So the hypothesis is something that the behaviorist believes it could be the reason why the behavior is happening. So, for example, Sean hits staff. The hypothesis underneath is Sean hits staff to get a soda. Sean hits staff to make them get away from him. Or Sean hits staff to get one-on-one attention. Of course, there could be many other reasons as well, but these are three that have been identified by the behaviorist. Also, Sean touches himself in front of others. Why does he do this? Well, the behaviorist may hypothesize that Sean touches himself because it feels good. He touches himself to get attention, and maybe he touches himself to get people to leave him alone. So, review question number 3. What is a hypothesis? A, the technical term for assessment, B, the technical term for sticker charts, C, the technical term for why the behaviorist thinks a behavior is happening, or D, the technical term for following a schedule. If you chose C, the technical term for why the behaviorist thinks a behavior is happening, then you are correct. In the behavior support plan, you will see a term called target behaviors. Target behaviors do not always mean that something is bad or challenging. A behavior is really anything a person does. The hitting step, chewing on pizza, blinking, screaming, dancing, running, all of these things are behaviors, and they are neither good or bad necessarily. The plan should include behaviors that we want to increase, as well as behaviors we want to decrease. Sometimes people say, well, why would we want to increase behavior? Because as I said, behaviors can be anything. So good behavior is something we are going to want to increase. So targets to increase are usually skills or replacement behaviors. So what is a replacement behavior? Basically, it is when there is a challenging behavior that is not useful for the person. Instead of them doing that behavior, what else can be offered to them that they can do instead? And what can they learn, such as learning to use communication in some form, activities of daily living. Maybe we can introduce a hobby. Instead of them getting upset because they're bored, maybe they start finding interest in a hobby. And then targets to decrease are usually the reasons why people are asking for services. So things like screaming, spitting on caregivers, running, etc. Let's look at some examples of target behaviors. So targeting behavior for decrease, you want to decrease negative behaviors, things that are not good for the person or that the person says, I don't want to do this anymore. Things that we want to increase are functional communication or asking for something, for instance. These are things we want to have them do more. So these targets for increase or decrease should be very clear to you when you read them. The targets should have examples or non-examples to help you understand what they mean. And the targets should include a way to gather data to identify whether those targets are actually helping with the behavioral situation. So review question again. Which of the following are examples of a behavior? Scratching an itch, running a race, peeling bananas, eating paper clips, all of these, or none of these? If you chose E, all of these behaviors, then you are correct. Also included in the behavior support plan are interventions. So what are interventions? They are the things that you do to intervene when a behavior is occurring. So some interventions will help you prevent target behaviors. Some interventions will help you encourage a target behavior. So the more we encourage skills, replacement behaviors, or other options, the better life is for the individual and especially for their caregivers. Some interventions will help you react to the target behaviors yourself. It will help you know what to do when you see the identified behaviors happening. A frequently asked question by providers is, when things are getting better because we are implementing the behavior support plan, then how do we show that the individual still needs their one-to-one or two-to-one support that they get from the customized rate? Just because they are showing less behavior doesn't mean that it has been extinguished. it could just mean it's not happening because they have that extra attention and support. So how do you make sure that the customized rate review committee knows that that is the case? Well, you need to take data. So is data being collected correctly? Many behaviorists include attempts as part of the target behavior definition. So what is an attempt? An attempt, in my own words, is when you as the caregiver see the things that happen in the individual before the behavior occurs. So for instance, Sean may start pacing before he engages in hitting, biting, or eloping from the house. And so when you see Sean start to pace, instead of sitting back and just watching him continue into the behavioral phase, then you intervene and you stop the behavior from happening by distracting him or getting him involved in some other activity, verbally discussing with him what is upsetting him, just like we mentioned earlier. And these would be things that would be in the behavior support plan as things you should try when Sean is starting to pace. Those things you want to mark down on your data sheets as well as the things that actually happen. So attempts can be evidence that the functional behavior assessment, the behavior support plan, and interventions need to be updated. Data collection is extremely important to the behavioral consultant as well as to the customized rate. Data collection helps the behaviorist make decisions about what needs to happen with the behavior support plan and whether things are working or if they're making things worse. It is important to the customized rate because it shows proof of what is actually happening at the home or at the service or in the community, wherever the supports are taking place. So common data collection methods are ABC data, counting each event that occurs, which is known as frequency, and timing the duration of an event. So work with the behaviorist to make sure that you're doing this correctly. If the data sheets that have been provided are not working very well, please let the behaviorist know because they can modify those sheets so that it makes it a little bit easier. It is very difficult sometimes to take data and pay attention to the individual at the same time. So the behaviorist needs to know if you do not understand something, have resource limitations, or if you have suggestions or would like to be trained further. When we're speaking of the customized rate, there are some key elements that the committee wants to know when they are reviewing data. And it is very important that these key points are included in the data sheets and in the behavioral graphing that is done. So make sure that you and your behavioral consultant discuss these things to make sure that they can be put into the data sheets. So for instance, what is the date? What time is it? What specific thing is the individual doing? Don't say physical aggression. Say hitting a housemate, spitting on staff, running out into the street. Don't say verbal aggression because that is very vague, just like physical aggression. Make sure that you say they're cursing, they're saying horrible things. Say specifically what it is. Then we want to know specifically what did the staff do to intervene. And here you don't want to say vague things like verbal redirection. You want to say staff spoke to Sean about what is bothering him. Or if it is a physical intervention, you want to say what exactly that looked like. Did that include blocking? Did that include a restraint, whether large or small? Did it include something else? Please be specific with that. And then we also want to know, how did the individual respond to the intervention that you used? So if you verbally intervened by asking Sean, "What's wrong, Sean? What can I do for you?" How did Sean respond? Did he actually respond to you or show you what he needed or what was bothering him? Or did it make him more upset? So, why do we need data? What is the big deal? And why can't we just take the word of the provider or support people? Well, how do we know that the plan is working? Okay, data is collected, it's graphed by the behaviorist, they create graphs, and they make their treatment decisions or their hypotheses and their um, follow up by looking at the data. And sometimes we think that we know what is occurring, but we're not with this individual 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So different people may be seeing different things, and that can be captured by writing it down. So if Sean is hitting staff all day, we want to make sure that the data and the graph show that this was occurring all day long. People's memories are not accurate sometimes. So if you go by memory alone, you may not be able to tell the full story. Whereas if data is being taken as the day progresses, it is more accurate. Here you see an example of a graphical display. This is a behavior graph, and it is for hitting. And it shows the dates, the number of times, and then it's all connected, so it's really visually easy to see the ups and downs of the hitting behavior. Now, the providers of services for support are not required to create these graphs. These graphs are created by the behaviorist, but they are based upon the data sheets that staff or support individuals are providing. So it is very important that the data that is taken, which we call raw data, meaning that it's being taken, right as things are happening, it's important that it's accurate so that when we look at the graphical display, it shows us an accurate picture of what's going on. This is another example of a graph. And by looking at this graph, we can determine whether the hitting behavior is increasing or decreasing. So take a moment to look at this and tell me if you believe that the hitting behavior is increasing or decreasing. As you can see, the line is going down, and according to the numbers on the left side, the further down it gets, the less times the hitting behavior is occurring. So we would say that the hitting behavior is definitely decreasing. Let's do another little review question. Which of the following statements are true? And here you can choose more than one. A, behaviorists know what is going on, so data is not really important. B, the same intervention that works for one person may not work for another person. C, collecting data is only important at the beginning of services. D, caregivers should work closely with behaviorists so plans can be updated or modified. If you chose answers B and D, then you're correct. The same intervention that works for one person may not work for someone else, and caregivers should look closely at what's working so that they can talk to the behaviorist about updated plans or modifications to that plan. Sometimes when providers apply for the customized rate, they are surprised to learn that we need data for the last 6 months. So basically, they'll say, well, we haven't been taking data regularly. We just take down incidents that occur and we complete incident reports. Well, the good news is that is still a form of data and we can use that. If there is a behaviorist, make sure that you provide the incident reports to them. If the individual does not have a behaviorist, then provide documentation to us of those incidents, and we can supply those to the committee with the submission. Another issue is I can't get the staff to take data, or they constantly forget to do it. Well, talk to the behaviorist because they might be able to help by either retraining the staff or modifying the way that the data is collected to make it a little bit easier for your staff. So work with your organizational resources such as HR, leadership training and consulting, or seek a mentor, somebody that can help shadow and be an example to the staff of how they can make two things happen at once, both providing care and tracking data. What if you are applying for the customized rate, but the person that you are applying for with the exceptional behavioral needs does not currently have a behaviorist, does not currently have a behavior support plan? Should you be taking data already? Yes. So request an example from us, from your consultant, myself or Javier. Download a blank data sheet from the internet and use that. You can also create your own. And basically, you want to count the number of times the individual engages in the behavior you're concerned about. So I suggest that when you have found the data sheet that you would like to use, whether it's our example or you obtain another one, put down on that sheet the things that are negatively impacting the individual and their services. Put those things down and then ask the staff to mark down each time one of those specific behaviors happens. So if it's hitting, elopement, and pica, then you want to have all three of those listed, and you want the staff to either make a mark or have some other way to count and show what time of day they're happening and what's going on with it, as we mentioned earlier. So if you don't have a data situation already in place, we want you to put that into place, but we will also take other information from other sources, such as from psychiatric hospitalizations, reach crisis placements or crisis reports. And if they've had legal involvement, we'll take information about all of that. All of that reflects behavioral situations. So yes, we want you to have behavioral data when you apply, and we request that it be at least 6 months. However, if this is new to you, or if you have just received this person into your care, you're not going to have that yet. And so we can work with you on obtaining that and using other information in the meantime. What kinds of things should you, the provider or person providing supports, what should you expect from the behaviorist? Well, you should expect that they provide you with a signed and dated behavior support plan. You should expect that they plan for and provide training to you and or your staff. And that training should include the goals of the behavior support plan and the training, a description of what the training is going to look like or what they should remember from that training. They should be modeling the skill for you and or your staff. They should have you practice it in front of them. They should provide feedback during that time that you are practicing it. Now, this practice may not necessarily take place with the individual for whom the behavior support plan is for, but you can practice on each other. Staff can role play. And then you want to repeat those practices and give feedback and ask for feedback until you feel confident that the staff know what they're supposed to do and they are ready to do it. I want to revisit the collaboration that is really needed between providers, caregivers, and the behavioral consultant. So communication is key. You have to let the behaviorist know what is and what is not working, and they need to let you know what's not working or what is working for them. Maybe they're not getting the data sheets regularly. They need to let you know that. Maybe you are not hearing from the behaviorist as often as you'd like. That's also important for you to communicate. Take responsibility for accepting um, critique from the behaviorist, but also seeking input and providing input. Also, look at whether you need more training. And did something change with this individual? Did something change with their surroundings? Are there new staff? Did the furniture get moved? It could be as simple as that. Make sure that you are collecting the data as indicated by the behaviorist. Please use the data sheets they give you. And if the data sheets are not working, again, make sure you let them know that. And then make sure that the behaviorist understands what your program is, what you do, how it works, a typical day in your program, and then make sure that they also understand the customized rate and what is required of the behavioral data for the customized rate. Anytime a behaviorist is unfamiliar with the customized rate or has questions about it, they are welcome to contact me. I am available to providers of any services at all times, and we can set up a little appointment where I can review the necessary elements with that behaviorist. Also, make sure that the committee requirements and requests are known to the behaviorist. So after your first approval, if and when approved, there will be some things in your approval letter that are required of you for the next review period. And so you want to make sure that you're communicating those things to the behaviorist so that they can be collecting that data. Many times, either the providers, caregivers, or the behaviorists have some concerns working with each other. There may be concerns that one party or another is not contributing as they should. So it is important that you speak up. Whichever party is having concerns should speak up and let those concerns be known. So if it is something that could impact the approval of a customized rate, then that's a big concern and that's something that needs to be addressed right away. Now, either the behaviorist or the people providing supports may feel a little intimidated to contact the other and state how they feel. So in cases like that, please feel free to reach out to your support coordinator or reach out to us here at the Customized Rate, and we can facilitate a small meeting between the parties and help everybody understand what's necessary. So the support staff for the customized rate are listed here. We do have a general email, which is DBHDS customized rate at dbhds.virginia.gov. We also have the contact information for myself and for Javier, and we have our email and our phone numbers there for you to contact us regarding pretty much anything having to do with the customized rate. Application processing and status regarding that. Angela Clark is our processor, and you can contact her as well. And then finally, our customized rate program manager is Carrie Otteson, and her contact information is there as well. On this last slide, you'll see a list of resources that were used to put together this training. If you have questions that were not answered during this training, please reach out to us here at the Customized Rate. You will not be bothering us, especially myself, because I am responsible for most of the training that goes on. Please reach out to me. I am available frequently, and I can usually get back to you in a short period of time. You will not be bothering me if you reach out. So thank you very much for your attention to this training, and I look forward to speaking with all of you sometime in the future.